The mysterious pyramid-like mounds that Takeshi discovered are covered in thick forest today.
We are on top of the western pyramid or mound. From the center line of this mound to the center of the eastern mound seems to have very intentional alignment.
Takeshi thinks these two mounds were assembled by the ancient builders of AGUADA FÉNIX for a very special ritual. It's a layout known as an astronomical complex, or E-group. The higher mound in the west allowed ancient astronomers to observe the sunrise compared to the mound directly to its east. The technique allowed these people to calculate precise dates in the year. AGUADA FÉNIX was built as a ceremonial gathering place.
So sun rises in this direction on February 24th. Then it comes back and rises on this direction on October 17th. Interestingly, the interval between October 17th and February 24th is 130 days. That's very significant number. 130 is half of 260-day calendar.
Takeshi has uncovered a vital clue that links this site with the great Maya civilization. The Maya used a calendar called the Sacred Round to track important activities related to the gods. It was formed of 260 days. 260 was a combination of the numbers 1 to 13, coupled with 20 different day names.
We have 20 digits, right? We have 10 fingers and 10 toes. So the number 20 comes directly out of the human body. Their cosmos was a mirror image in some ways of the human body. So this is a fundamental kind of template that they use in their numerology, in their calendar, and in the structure of the cosmology in general.
So we think these ceremonies were certainly dedicated to the sun, but also with the growing season for maize. So it's a whole complex, I think, that speaks to these ceremonies having to do with agriculture, with the organization of the cosmos, and the time and the calendar.
Throughout the history of the ancient Maya, astronomical complexes were central to ceremonial sites they built. And AGUADA FÉNIX is the oldest such complex in the entire Maya region. The discovery suggests that AGUADA FÉNIX was an open-air temple, an immense sanctuary and meeting place, a place of pilgrimage that hosted huge ceremonies, just as the Maya would do at the height of their civilization. Pilgrims access the platform via 4 giant ramps located at its ends. Each one is 120 meters long and 50 meters wide.
Here you could have probably 10 people go next to each other up this ramp. And we think the northern part and the southern part, this is how people potentially ceremonially accessed the big platforms.
The 560,000 square meters of the platform allowed a huge number of people to gather.
But if you just look at the dimensions of it, it would accommodate thousands, if not 10,000s of people.
But the team have found no evidence that these people lived at AGUADA FÉNIX in a city.
There were different kinds of people gathering here. Some people are more mobile, coming from distant places, and some of them may have been a ritual specialist who did mainly the solar observation, organization of ritual.
Now, a remarkable discovery is exposing one of these people. The tropical environment here means that organic matter doesn't preserve well, making a discovery to the northeast of the platform very exciting. The skeletal remains of a 3,000-year-old person.
He was buried in a sitting position. His legs
and knees like this kind of position.
Examining the bones reveal they're from an adult man who carried out physical labor.
He had some pattern of bone which indicate that he did a very hard physical work, including carrying a heavy load, using a band put on the forehead and then carry the heavy load in the back. One possibility was he was one of the workers who built the platform.
Takeshi's team found evidence of this man's diet by analyzing his teeth.
That this person ate relatively good amount of maize. So some people may have been adapting a more sedentary way of life with more maize consumption. So we are seeing that change in the lifestyle. Before 1100 BC, many people are probably mobile because they didn't build substantial residential structures. They were moving by season, and probably they were in a transitional stage.
The discovery suggests that the people who built AGUADA FÉNIX were beginning to settle and become more sedentary agriculturists. Could they have planted the seeds for the Maya civilization? The team need to find more evidence. At the heart of the astronomical E-group complex, the team dig on the center line between the pyramid bounds. This is where archaeologists have found buried artifacts at other ancient sites, and they're about to strike lucky. Claudia Alvarado is in charge of the excavation, and her team has unearthed an unusual green stone.
This is where they found it.
Just below? And who's the lucky one?
It's a jade stone, the most precious and sacred in the Maya region. And it must have been placed here intentionally.
It doesn't come from here. In any case, it's not its natural place.
The team record the exact location and orientation of the stone before removing the precious clue.
We will dip the ground to see if we find more of these stones.
The discovery of jade at AGUADA FÉNIX is more evidence of a link to the Maya. Green jadestone was highly prized by the civilization. They used it in funerary masks and other ritual objects.
There are sources of jade in the Mexican side of the Maya region, but a lot of the finer jade came from the other side of the Maya lowlands. Jade was used mostly for ritual purposes.
It was a rare material, so it was something that was hard to get. It was also physically hard. It was very hard to carve. It was so durable. It was so lasting.
At AGUADA FÉNIX, the team want to find out what the builders used jade for.
The piece is clean, Takeshi.
Very good. Let's take a look.
It looks more polished on one side.
Yes, it's polished on this side.
Takeshi's team has found other polished jade stones too, including axe heads.
If we see those stones, they are not standardized. Many different shapes and then different color. So that means that they obtained those individual pieces through different connection. And then for the big ceremony, they put them together and then deposited them.
One piece of jade has been carved into a tool of some sort.
This part is broken, but originally it must have had a pointed edge, probably used for blood-letting ritual. In case of male, they pierce the male organ. In case of female, they pierce the tongue.
The practice of bloodletting, a kind of self-sacrifice, was an important ritual in the Maya world. It was sometimes performed by rulers in public as a way of demonstrating their connection with the sacred world. Bloodletting and jade objects, alongside the sophisticated mystical calendar and tracking of the sun, offer further evidence of a link between AGUADA FÉNIX and the Maya. Cave systems across the Yucatan Peninsula became important places of ritual for the Maya, a vital element of their religious belief.
There's pottery everywhere. These pieces of pottery are probably classic or pre-classic ancient Maya.
Archaeologists think that the Maya left pottery in caves as part of religious ceremonies.
They would destroy their old pottery, and that's why you find in many caves, you find actually, instead of finding full pieces of pottery, you find just shards of them, because it was signifying a new era was beginning. That's one of the hypotheses.
Cenotes were believed to be portals to the underworld, and a special sacred tree called the saber became a link to the heavens. According to Maya mythology, the saber symbolizes the 3 levels of the universe. Its roots reach the underworld in the cenotes. Its trunk represents the middle world, where humans live. And its canopy of branches stretches towards the heavens of the upper world.
It's because of trees like ceiba that have roots that can reach the water table, that this region that has a higher propensity to drought is still lush, and you can still have vegetation.
Cenotes would offer a spiritual dimension and vital water to the Maya living at their new capital city of MAYAPÁN. But now a shocking discovery just outside the city is posing new questions about how cenotes were used. Archaeologist Bradley Russell has been studying MAYAPÁN for 2 decades. He's assembled a team to investigate a cenote called San Jose. The cenote is full of water, so diver Alessandro Riato has been called in and tasked with mapping the site. It's a difficult job.
If you remember last time, there was some problems with gas. There's a level of gas, low oxygen air, just below the entrance to the well here. Be cognizant as you're going down not to lose focus from that.
If I feel uncomfortable for this gas, I will call for people to hold the rope.
Ionisa Ook is the archaeologist who first discovered the site and its dark secret.
The archaeological context is very important. So among the deposits you're going to see, you must not touch them, because they correspond to customs that we're going to study.
This is the first time that this cenote will be fully mapped.
Buena suerte.
Underwater, it's an alien landscape. The water is 15 meters deep, and the cave extends for more than 20 meters in each direction. Alessandro needs to be careful. One misplaced kick could stir up sediment that cuts visibility to 0. On the floor of the cave lies something shocking. Human remains. The skeletons of more than a dozen people.
The big question you ask yourself when you find a deposit like that is, why are these people here? What has happened differently? Were they victims of warfare? Were they sacrificial victims that were thrown in as offerings?
Alessandro will map the layout in detail. The bones are more than 650 years old and provide valuable evidence about the lives of the Maya at the time.
We've been unusually lucky because they're really like time capsules. By getting detailed information about the contents of these deposits, it's almost like decoding a forensic crime scene. You find yourself being able to reconstruct the behaviors and how people came to be buried here.
Alessandro installs lines across the passages and caverns, allowing him to plot out natural features and the 3D space. It takes 10 hours of diving to complete the mapping. Bradley's team has analysed skeletons found at Saquayum cenote to find out more about the individuals and how they died.
This is a 3D model of one of the skulls. There doesn't seem to be any indication that violence was the cause of death, which was one of the questions that we were asking ourselves early on, is are these war victims, are these sacrificial victims? And we just don't see anything like that.
Instead, Bradley thinks that the people thrown into these cenotes suffered a different but equally tragic fate.
The data we have seems to fit best with the theory that these were victims of some sort of epidemic disease. They needed a space where they could dispose of a lot of bodies rapidly. They were segregating them from the rest of the population by putting them in these specific locations.
The theory explains why the Maya still avoid these particular cenotes to this day.
The Maya themselves talked about pestilences and epidemics in Mayapan's late history and immediately afterward.
Scholars think that a series of droughts around 1350 AD crippled even the cenote-rich Mayapan and coincided with waves of disease. And soon, other crises would hit the city too.
The political system in Mayapan, it was a marked difference from the classic period where you saw a political system that was dedicated to veneration of the king's royal lineage.
Mayapan was founded to mitigate against regional divisions. They brought all the noble houses together from their separate kingdoms. It's a very effective strategy when you're trying to unite a region.
Mayapan decided to do something, have in their town the leaders of all of these different other groups, other towns, come live there, and they could keep an eye on them, control them.
But in reality, one family, called the Kokoms, dominated the alliance, wielding much more control than the next most powerful Shu family.
Mayapan brought together all of these rivals that were vying for power into its governing council, and they negotiated their differences for over 250 years.
Despite this union of great families of the region, the leaders of Mayapan still feared external attack. So they ordered a vast wall built around their city. They constructed the largest city wall in this part of the Americas, 9.1 kilometers long with 7 major gates. Today, only a few ruins remain, but it was a remarkable piece of engineering at its time.
In its day, it was at least 3 meters tall.
The largest city wall anywhere in Mesoamerica. It's got a number of gates with oftentimes defensive features, parapets and other platforms so that you could shoot down and protect those entrances.
It shows how much the lords of Mayapan were concerned with defense.
The wall kept out intruders, but also kept in the population, ensuring control. And now some experts think that its construction might have exacerbated tension between the dominating Kokom family and the sidelined Shu.
To put in the labor that was required for the state to produce that massive piece of architecture, it might have engendered a lot of hostility or resentment.
Combined with drought and disease, tensions would soon explode.
The Shu took advantage of the fact that things weren't going well.
Archaeologists have found evidence that points to civil war.
We found skeletons that showed signs of violence and had traces of head trauma, probably from face-to-face fighting.
We have a collection of different individuals, different ages, different sexes, all from a location that is associated, we believe, with the Kokom family.
We have evidence of violence, burned buildings that were never rebuilt. We have mass graves in the city where people were chopped up and their remains burned, the effigies of their gods, the ceramic sculptures of their gods smashed.
The famous kind of big event that was the end of Mayapan was the attack from the Shu family on the Kokom family, where they wiped out essentially all the Kokoms who were present in the city.
Conflict was the final straw for the troubled city. The combination of civil war, drought, and disease was a perfect storm that led to MAYAPÁN's collapse. When TIKAL was in its prime, it was immense. The Maya built a dense ceremonial center with at least 5 pyramids towering up to 70 meters tall. TIKAL was once home to an estimated 90,000 people.
They were some of the largest buildings in the Maya world for sure at that time. And you can see how they start to get very more creative. And this is the hallmark of TIKAL.
Today, more than 6,000 ancient structures have been identified in TIKAL. Grand monuments built during the so-called classic era of the Maya civilization. The era was the golden age of the Maya. It lasted from around 250 to 900 AD. It was when many great cities were built.
When we refer to the Maya, we're talking about huge settlements that we can call capitals, but of course all the area was highly populated. I mean, the achievements they have, the development, their technology, it's overwhelming.
During the 8th century, the estimates range from 7 to 11 million people. I mean, you compare that to any part of the world in that period, this is incredible.
The classic era was marked by the presence of powerful kings, ruling from their pyramid-filled cities.
They achieved something that the Egyptians never did, really steep pyramids.
The king positioned himself at the top of those pyramids and officiating the most important rituals as the personified deity itself. So those buildings legitimized the supernatural source of power of Maya kings and queens.
In places like TIKAL, the rulers lived with other elite people near the city's ceremonial heart. But valuable clues about TIKAL's history and fate could lie in the homes of common people. In the east of the city, Edwin's colleague, Cristina Garcia Leal, is excavating the house of a non-elite family. It was a Maya tradition to bury their dead beneath the floors of buildings, and the team recently discovered a body here.
Look how's it going over here?
It's good. We removed the body and now we have the 3 last vessels to clean.
It looks so good. They are not broken. They don't have any scratches.
Nope, not broken. And this one has, it's polychromed, both of these.
Oh, both of them?
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
So this is, it's a cup and it was used for drinking hot chocolate. And it's a very normal thing to drink back then. A very common drink. So you can see there was a line coming here, red on top, a black line coming underneath, and you could see that there were figures drawn in it and a red border in the bottom. So these 3 vessels are part of the offering associated to the burial that we found here. So you can see the body was laid this way. There was also another plate that was turned upside down and placed behind the head of the individual as a sort of pillow or a resting place for the head.
The design is very unique for this period of time, and that will help us to date this burial.
Edwin can use these ceramics and others unearthed across TIKAL to reconstruct a timeline of the city and find out how TIKAL fits into the history of the Maya classic era.
In this small table, we are seeing more than 1,000 years of occupation of TIKAL. We can see through ceramics that this is the beginning of TIKAL. They are monochromatic, normally they are red, black, and this is when TIKAL was a really small city.
This pottery is from 350 BC, after the Maya had settled here and established the city.
And now we can see a change. This is the beginning of the classic period. We start to have more colors. And what we are seeing over here is a change of technology. This is around the year 250, and this is when TIKAL starts to become the more important city in the Maya region. Later on, we start to have another type. This is the classic period from around 600 to 800 AD. This is when TIKAL was in his peak. Here we are seeing the last 200 years of occupation of Tikal. And you can see again, the shape is different. And that's how ceramics help us to see and reconstruct this society from the beginning to the end.
The evidence shows that Tikal's power spanned the full duration of the Maya classic era. And it reveals that at the end of that era, around 900 AD, Tikal was mysteriously deserted. The Maya left this immense city and abandoned its pyramids to the jungle, never to return and build large-scale monuments here again. Investigations across the Maya region have shown that Tikal wasn't alone. Many cities, particularly in the Maya lowlands, were deserted. The building of grand monuments suddenly ceased.
Whatever system existed in 500 and 600 and 700, it broke down between 8 and 900 AD, such that most classic Maya kingdoms were simply abandoned to the forest. People could not live there anymore.
Public buildings were abandoned because to really have public buildings in good shape, you need to have a good government and you have to have some kind of social stability.
The mystery of what caused the collapse of urban Maya society in this area has puzzled archaeologists for decades. One long-standing theory is that cities ran out of water for their growing populations.
You're not supposed to have giant cities in a tropical forest. It's thin soils, few rivers, and a long dry season. The real secret of the Mayas is their ability to preserve water during a dry season, which to the north at places like Tikal is 6 months.
In Tikal today, Edwin has mapped and investigated more than 70 square kilometers around the city. So he understands the challenge the Maya faced.
The closest rivers are like 30 kilometers far away from Tikal, and the lake at least 40 kilometers away. The Mayas need to get creative and start to think how we can survive in this very difficult environment. Our colleagues have been excavating in this area, and we know that was modified by the Maya. There used to be a natural spring that runs behind the palace. And what they did is they start to build dams.
The Maya built an ingenious system of reservoirs to collect and store water at Tikal. Some reservoirs were even fitted with a filtration system. Builders imported sand and a special rock called zeolite from over 25 kilometers away, allowing water to run through it and be cleaned. Reservoirs concentrated the population and the power of rulers who controlled the city. The reservoir at Tikal Center had no effective filter system, and uncontrolled bacteria growth might have been caused by food waste, poisoning the water.
This was a big problem, especially the palace reservoir. Having the water turn green right in front of the palace of the ruler, then the people must have seen this as a failing of their leadership.
And that's not all. David's team also detect mercury in the water samples, at a level 17 times higher than is safe for humans. At Tikal, the source of mercury has been linked to paint production, especially a red pigment that the Maya used on a wide scale.
And one thing the Maya would use as a pigment was cinnabar, which is mercury sulfate. And so there would be a constant buildup in mercury in the sediments and in the waters of the reservoir. And so the rulers were consuming mercury every day in their food. And this would have created a real problem for them. One of the effects of the mercury, there's a condition they call metabolic syndrome. And one of the symptoms of that is people become enormously obese.
This ancient carving shows one of the last rulers of Tikal, a man known as Dark Sun, who is clearly shown as obese.
And also it affects their neurology in their brain and elsewhere. It would have perhaps affected their mental acuity and their ability to make good decisions.
These astonishing new discoveries suggest that contaminated water put the authority of Tikal's rulers under pressure, possibly contributing to the city's collapse. In Paso del Macho, Evan Parker has found clues that suggest that there were elite Maya even earlier than at Kiwik. He unearthed the remains of a male teenager who was buried with a necklace and bracelet made of seashells around 800 BC.
One of the interesting things about grave goods like this is that they oftentimes reflect the status or the role of whatever individual they're buried with. Paso del Macho is an inland settlement, so these would have had to have been obtained either through an expedition to the coast or through trade routes. This would have taken a high amount of labor in order to carve these.
Alongside the jewelry, Evan found another unusual object.
We have not found anything like this in all of northern Yucatan with any burials before. This is a form of white jadeite that seems to be like an axe, but the color is unique, and what really makes it unique are these series of inscribed lines.
Evan thinks the artifact might have been worn on the head of high-status people.
So the fact that they're young and that they are buried with an incredibly rare object, which we've never seen anywhere else before, suggests that there is some degree of hereditary inequality or ascribed inequality. That's a huge moment throughout history whenever we go from people being able to simply achieve high status to being able to have it ascribed to them.
With the emergence of a hereditary social elite, the groundwork was laid for the powerful kings and lavish palaces that the Maya civilization would become known for. But hierarchy and social structure is only part of what makes a civilization. Now, archaeologists are unearthing evidence of the rise of a shared culture amongst these early Maya. 20 kilometers from where he found the elite skeleton, in the forest of the Pook region, Evan is investigating the remains of a structure.
What we're looking at right here is the corner and backside of an ancient Maya ball court. So it's one of the oldest ball courts in all of northern Yucatan.
It's where a ball game was played, one of the most iconic cultural markers of the Maya.
So most likely what would be under the ground here would be a single retaining wall for the backside of the ball court. And then there might have been a series of steps. There might be additional architecture on top of the mound, perhaps a covered area. So this would be a place of spectatorship. It would be a place for celebration, for partying. Or maybe we could imagine that there would be people here serving food or drink to those ready to enjoy the ball game.
The remains of this site date to between 600 and 500 BC. And across this area, archaeologists have unearthed another 25 ball courts from the same period. The Maya ball game might have originated in this region.
The fact that there are so many ball courts in this region suggests that it was integral, it was foundational to the social fabric of the city. And because ball courts are so prevalent here compared to other areas of the Maya world, should we begin to ask ourselves, is this where the prototypical Maya ball game really starts off, and then it spreads throughout the Maya world more broadly during the Classic period?
This game would become integral to Maya cultural identity until the present day. The ball game is still practiced in Maya communities. The goal is to return the ball to the opponent's side without using hands or feet. It's more than a simple leisure sport. It's a game of symbolism. The ball represents the movement of celestial bodies. The game embodies the balance of the cosmos. In the Puuc forests, Evan thinks that the ball courts aren't just a marker of Maya civilization. Perhaps they were a driver of it.
Whenever you have such prominent architecture like a ball court in a site, this maybe suggests that it is the focal point of community identity. This is a game that is creating communal ties, so this would be almost like a social reactor.
Around 500 BC, through the development of culture and common identity, the emergence of permanent cities and the growth of powerful elite, the Maya civilization was beginning to emerge. And soon they would start to build the grand and lavish stone cities that would make the Maya world famous today. In the Puuc region of Mexico, archaeologist Tomás Galarreta is excavating a site known as Chocnac. A pyramid made of stone sits at its heart. Tomás believes this was the focal point of large-scale ceremonies that attracted worshippers from across the region.
Around 450 BC, this place must have been impressive, especially for the peasants who didn't live here, all those who came from rural areas. When they came here, they probably realized that this was a really important place.
During its heyday, it was an impressive sight. The 20-meter-tall stone pyramid was at the heart of a huge ceremonial complex, with 8 smaller structures flanking it, all built on top of a platform made from 150,000 cubic meters of material that formed a wide and open plaza, a colossal monument for its time.
This is one of the greatest. It's monumental. It's about 130 meters on each side. So if you look at the volume of this building, it's really incredible that they built it at such an early time. Given the size of the main square, it was able to accommodate the whole community. I mean, it's as big as a stadium, so it was probably a gathering place for different kinds of festivities or commemorations.
To build in stone at such scale, the Maya would need to figure out how to support the weight of the giant pyramid. To solve the mystery of how the Maya managed it, Tomás and his team excavate an 8-meter-deep investigatory shaft, exposing the platform's ingenious internal structure. Under the surface of the plaza, Maya builders constructed a network of interlinking walls, forming a series of rigid stone cells. These foundations spread out the weight of the monuments they built above.
This cellular technique is known in the monumental constructions of many other important sites. It's a technique that becomes widely used during the classic period. It shows that there was a lot of investment here. The lords of this place managed to be so powerful that they were able to sponsor and support the construction of work as large as this.
The ingenious construction of this giant monument was overseen by powerful city leaders, evidence of the constant progression of this society towards increasing hierarchy, but also a sign of a technological shift in the Maya civilization towards the use of cut stone.
This technology is much more advanced than the type of earthen architecture that we have before the Middle Preclassic. Places like La Venta, for example, where most of the buildings are made of just packed clay or earth. And so because the Maya were able to use limestone and mortar, they could create more vertical buildings.
The change that happened from these small settlements to these late pre-classic sites was truly a remarkable time. If you think about a span of a few centuries and all of a sudden you have these large constructions.
The race for monumentality would increase over the centuries, becoming one of the markers of the classic era of Maya civilization. It was their mastery of stone that enabled Maya builders to construct a series of magnificent cities over a remarkable 1,500-year time span.